Good afternoon. Welcome back to another rendition of the B&H virtual event space. Today, we are talking about the power of personal work and how it can propel your creative career. Jeremy Cowart joining us with the man himself from SanDisk Professional, Pete Iskrig. Pete, this is my
Wow.
favorite part when we have you on. I
Right.
just literally open it up and I get out of the way because you host better than I do.
I was
So
saying, you get paid for the hour and I get to do all the work, so it's good.
exactly. So to all of our viewers, if you are new to this whole thing, get your questions in. We're going to sit back and enjoy Jeremy for the next hour. But if you guys do have any questions, we'd love to ask him for you. And Pete is going to take it from here and break down the rundown.
All right. So, yeah, thanks, Derek. Thanks, B&H, for having us. We love coming to you guys and bringing, a wide assortment of photographers and different types of photography to you. Hopefully, you can learn some tips, tricks, and whatnot here. So we've got Jeremy here today. He's going to talk about and showcase some of his personal projects and sort of give you guys an overview of why these are important and why you need to pursue them. Please ask your questions to him throughout the presentation. If you're here in the Zoom room, please put them in the Q&A. If you're in any of the live streams, put them into the comments of the live stream, and Danny here will be feeding them to me throughout the event. And I will be talking with Jeremy throughout this, and we can get your questions answered. So anything that you've got going there, please put them in the Q&A or in the comment section. All right. That said, Jeremy, welcome. We're really glad you're here, and thanks for coming. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
So I have realized in my career that looking back so far in my career, I'm not done. I've got a long way to go, but looking back so far, I've realized in hindsight the most powerful thing we can do as photographers, or really artists in general, is to create personal work. So I'm going to jump into that. This really is not even just for photographers. This is for everybody. It covers all kind of personal projects. And do forgive me, it's been a while since I've made this presentation. So as we go, I'm going to skip some slides just to save time and stay within that hour. Because this is like a 3-hour presentation that I'm squeezing into an hour. So the word liminal, I chose the word liminal for this presentation because it means a state of transition. So many of us are between our day jobs and our daydreams, after a breakup, before the next breakup, in the midst of creative block. You get the idea. Liminal means also at the threshold. So at the threshold of finding your voice, building something special, discovering your purpose, bringing your good into the world. As I started to put this together, I stopped on the word good. And I like that word. Like, what is a good? It's an idea. It can be a dream, a project, a product, or a side hustle, or personal work. And of course, again, I'm going to focus on personal work. Most creatives say, well, yeah, I know I need to do personal work. It can certainly help. But I'm here to tell you that your life, your career, your legacy literally depend on it. I have personally done, and I counted, over 75 personal projects in the last 20 plus years. My personal projects have actually been featured on all these news outlets: CNN, Fox, USA Today, across the internet over time. So a good can be something that's good for the table or good for the soul. Actually, Joe McNally, I heard him once say this. He's talking about the work that we do for our clients versus the work that we just need to do for us, for our souls. That's really what a good is. Or ideally, it can be a good for both. Good, put food on the table and be good for your soul, something you want to do. So I'm going to break this up into seven steps into bringing your personal work into the world. The first thing you need to do is to choose a topic. What do you want your personal work to be about? Keep going here. If you have no clue what to do, you can simply literally go and study what's trending. That's the beauty of social media. Go look at trending topics, TikTok, Instagram, wherever. Taylor, she's the queen of finding relevant topics to make her goods about. This was sorry, I'm going to skip some slides. I did this good on, at the time Stranger Things was blowing up, and I made a personal project about the show of my own family. If you don't know what topic, pay attention to what you pay attention to. Like, what are you obsessed with every day? What are you following? Where do you want to jump in? Think about those topics that you're into. Personally, I follow a lot of fine art, and that's where my attention sits every day. And then that's what comes out of me is a lot of art, a lot of fine art that mixes my photography with my paintings, which now have led to NFTs. That's a whole different session we should do at some point. If you're still not sure on your topic, identify your favorite causes. Maybe you can do a project around your favorite cause. And if you're still unsure, you can think about what's universally loved. Everybody loves the mountains, the ocean, Dolly Parton, cats, dogs. Those are goofy examples, but seriously, it's like, think like a songwriter. When a songwriter writes a song, they have to think about universal lessons. We're all going through love, in and out of love and relationships, and that's why so many songs are about love, because they're universal topics. I'm gonna keep skipping. If you're still unsure, you can share your own story, your heart. I made a book, I made a presentation that went viral, turned into a book, and all I did was share my story, and that kind of blew up. It's kind of crazy. So once you have your topic to begin developing your personal work, you need to brainstorm a concept. What is something you can do with your photography to bring to that topic? And if you don't know what that concept is, I like to say, listen in the quiet. Like when you're going to bed at night, when you're showering by yourself, obviously, or maybe not, when you're mowing the lawn, when you're driving alone, like whenever those times are that you're alone, like I find personally, that's when ideas just hit me over the head, and I am sure to document them and write them down quickly. Also, when I say document, I use two apps. One is called My Mind, where I gather information and ideas. Another one is called Evernote, where I try to document my ideas. Another one is called MindNote, that I literally use to map out kind of my ideas in this kind of structure. But either way, I'm always like documenting my ideas for my personal projects. Of course, buy the domain names for your idea. It's always a big deal. Follow the what ifs. Like when you find yourself asking, what if I did this? What if I tried that? What if I plugged this light into that and then put a gel over it and blurred the shutter? Like whatever those what ifs are is what you need to pay close attention to. I've been looking for this slide. Like one time I had an idea to mask out the person from the photo, throw a bunch of textures behind her, and then photograph that through my monitor, through the lenses of old cameras, which produced a really interesting result. And all I did was follow that what if moment that resulted in this image. So the more you learn technically, the more you can achieve creatively, and I swear by that. I used to hate all the gear manuals, all the like software we had to deal with, and I was like, oh, I'll just live on my creativity. But I've learned over time that those gear manuals, those little really geeky tricks, those workshops, like all of that is just as crucial to the creativity itself, to the art itself. Because when you combine the new things that you learn technically, you're just adding that ammunition into what you can do as an artist. Like think about a lumber or a carpenter. Like if he only has a hammer, he can only do so much. Give him some wood, he can do a lot more. Give him a bulldozer, like keep adding tools, he can do a lot more with those tools. The same goes for photography. Skipping some slides here. I've been doing a lot of experimental work through portraiture over the years. some of you might still be saying, well, I'm not technical, I'm not creative, I'm too old, I'm too young, I don't have a platform, I can't afford it, I'm too busy, whatever that may be. That's called resistance. Those are just the forces keeping you from doing the work that you are most supposed to do. So you got to tune that stuff out. I have had plenty of my own voices too, trust me, over the years. Many bad voices. I have no idea where this terrible old photo of me is in the slideshow, but that is me at about 20 years old, pre-mustache, and wearing awful clothes. So make sure the passion is there, obviously. And step number 2, because trust me, if you don't have passion about your concept, you are going to flame out. You're going to burn out. It's not going to work. Keep moving here. Oh, this is just an example. I'll never forget my friend Lauren. She's a multi-platinum selling artist, and she said, or I said, this new album is a whole departure for you. Why are you going such a different direction? And she's like, I just needed to like do work that I'm passionate about. And that new record that she made ended up just destroying, obliterating all the records in music. And it just was a massive record because she followed her heart in step 2. Step 3 is, in my opinion, the most important one, the biggest one. That's where vision comes in, where you have to personalize your project, your good. So what is your vision? Vision can be style, vibe, aesthetic. Vision can be that thing in your work where they just know it's yours without actually knowing it's yours. And you know what I mean. When you first scroll across a photo on Instagram and you're like, oh, that's Dan Winters. Oh, that's Andy Leibovitz, whoever. That's called vision in their work. In my opinion, some of the vision goats across many mediums: Radiohead, Picasso, Michael Jordan, Banksy, Wes Anderson, Beyonce, Shakespeare, Steve Jobs, the list goes on and on. You know their work when you see or read it or hear it. Vision can be just something real specific about your work. I did a project that was where I did lighting based on people's personality test, which is an interesting experiment that I tried. That then turned into this crazy project. So the bottom right is the investigator. That's the black and white serious lighting, and then above that I have the quirky individualist lighting, and then to the left of that I have the perfectionist lighting, and below that I have the enthusiast lighting. So really cool project, lighting people based on their personalities. Vision can be the why. We've all heard Simon Sinek talk about this, the why behind what you're doing. I launched an idea for a hotel that blew up and went viral, and it was all because people got behind the why in our project. Gosh, I have so many projects I could share. I had a humanitarian project featured on worldwide news outlets. It was a real specific idea, real specific vision. Vision is turning nothing into something. So for example, when the pandemic stripped all my work away and all my income away, I was broke, probably like the rest of you. Well, I launched a project doing projection portraits, where I projected Zoom calls onto my studio walls, and I ended up doing, gosh, I think it was hundreds of photo shoots in 60 plus countries over a course of 6 weeks. It was insane. And I made a lot of money doing that, and it was just a real special moment for us all to come together during the pandemic. There we go, 1,200 paid photo shoots, 39 countries, 50 American states in 6 weeks. It was a lot, pretty crazy. Vision can be a new spin on an old format. I did a talk that went viral, blew up, launched a speaking career, and it's just because it was a visual talk that I illustrated. The vision was very, it was like a new spin on an old format. No one had ever done an illustrated time lapse speaking or talk. Kind of crazy. Vision can be seeing gaps in times of need. So when the earthquake struck Haiti, I went down there and photographed what I call visual tweets, just people writing messages on found rubble. And that project ended up doing very well. 10 billion, that project helped $10 billion be pledged to Haiti later on. It was pretty crazy. You get the idea. Vision is super crucial. Without vision, your project is kind of just going to blend in with everything else. So next step, I'm trying to keep track on my time here. The next step I think is also important is you have to verify that your idea is a good one. So oftentimes we can be really passionate. We can have the topic in step one. We can have the passion in step two, and even have a vision for it in step three. But guess what? It can still be a terrible idea. I've had that happen many times where I get to step four and I'm like, oh crap, this thing sucks. What do I do now? So you got to make sure it's a good idea. You got to ask, is it wanted? Does the public want this? Does the public need this? It's that simple. I've got a picture of a guy here, he probably don't recognize, but his songs are sung more than any artist in the history of the universe. More than the Beatles, more than Michael Jackson, more than Elvis Presley. His songs are the most sung in the entire planet. He writes a lot of Christian music that have been heard around the world. Even personally, when I go to the most remote parts of Africa and I'm out in the middle of the bush, out in the middle of nowhere, people are singing Chris Tomlin songs. Anyway, Chris happens to be a friend of mine. And something he told me is he just asked, how can I make this the simplest thing in the world for anybody in the remote parts of the world to understand? And it has worked time and time again for decades now. I also judge an idea by its steps. Sometimes we just have the core of an idea, the very tip top, and we got nothing else. When an idea stays with me and I keep thinking through all the logistics, the marketing, the whole deal, like how deep does that idea go? If it's real shallow, I know it's probably not the best idea. Then I share it with my friends and family. I start with my wife and get her honest feedback, and she is dead honest with me. She'll usually say, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna run to Target. Can you take out the trash while I'm gone? That's when I know maybe it's not a great idea. But when it is a good idea, she will tell me straight up and be really honest with me. And so there's also something called mastermind groups that I do, that I'm a part of. And this is an amazing thing to do. So you find 4 friends, you get together once a week, you spend an hour together, and at the beginning, you all share something good that's happening, because we all tend to focus on the things that are going bad in our life. And so you share a win, like I nailed that photo shoot, I killed that thing, it was awesome. And then the rest of the 45 minutes, somebody gets the hot seat, which means a problem to bring to the table that you're all there to help address. And so you're literally strengthening and helping each other get better at whatever you're doing. And so a lot of times I will bring my sketches of ideas to the mastermind group to give me feedback on. And instead of asking, is it a good or a bad idea? Maybe it's you need somebody to tell you, great idea, but you have too much going on right now, or it's too much about you, or it's too controversial, or it's just not your skill set, or we have bills to pay, maybe you can do that later, or we can't afford it, or it's not helpful, or maybe later. You need people in your life to help gauge these ideas. Seeking feedback, though, is a really delicate dance. I'm sorry, I skipped a slide. They can also say it's just the wrong city, the wrong market, the wrong age. It can be a lot of different things, but I say it's a delicate dance because sometimes, even though we get bad feedback, sometimes we know, you know what, it's still a good idea. I'm still going to do it. I've had that happen many, many times in my life where my community has said, not a great idea, don't do it. And I've listened and listened, and finally I'm like, okay, they still don't get it. I'm still going to do it. And sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm wrong. Both have happened, but it's just part of the creative process. Yeah, so this slide, sometimes you still know best. That's the point. So step 5, this is a really big one. Step 5 gets into planning and production of your idea. So I joke that this is where ideas and personal projects can go to die. Things to consider here: your goals, your timing, your team, your tools, your budget. So is your goal to help people in need? Is it to raise money? Is it to make money? Is it to gain followers, to attract new clients, to go viral, to become famous? Like, what is your goal for your project? My biggest strength is that I know my weaknesses. And so what I mean by that is, like, for this crazy idea for a hotel, for example, I've gone and found business partners and investors and architects and hoteliers, hotel industry people, to help me with this creative vision to build this crazy idea. And it's taken a lot of work, but my ideas are nothing without these people. I'll often say, find your peanut butter. I have a business partner that in everything I do, he is like the left side of the brain. So for example, he's left-brained, patient, invisible. He's not on social media. He's very skeptical. He's the mind. He's like an 80-year-old. I'm the opposite. I'm right-brained, impatient, all over social media. I'm very trusting of others. I lead with my heart, and I'm like a 12-year-old most of the time. So we are very opposite, but we work well, very well together. So obviously, do you have the money to do your project? If you don't, you can always, just bare bones it. Do it as cheap as possible. Whatever you do, don't go into debt. Find believers. You can always crowdfund your project, find a partner, investor. I've done literally all of the above, and just depends on the project. I've also rented a lot. You can rent gear instead of, you don't have to own all the cameras and all the lights and all the things. You can slowly rent the things you need and try them out, take them for a test spin. You can borrow gear from fellow photographers. You can barter. It's amazing how many things in my life I've bartered for as a photographer. This also is where you get into who is your cast and crew going to be for your project. You're good. Whether it's your partners or your assistants or catering, scheduling, hair and makeup, there's so much that goes into photo shoots and projects, but it is a big piece of putting together an idea. Timing is also huge. I'm amazed over the years at the amount of artists that work so long and hard on something, and then they launch at like 11 p.m. on a Friday night. Like, really? Like, could you not wait till, Monday morning at like 7:30 a.m. right before everybody's going to work, or after they get off work and they have time where they're actually looking at social media? Like, timing is a big deal for your projects that you're putting out into the world. If all else fails in step 5, just do the very best with what you have. And I've been there too, where a lot of times things don't go well, and I just have to do my thing and do the best with what I can. So step 6 is just to do it. Execution time. Quality matters. Don't just, if you've come this far, don't just capture your project with an iPhone, unless that's like part of the thing is to shoot on a mobile device. But quality matters. Do it with the best gear, the best, editing, the best that you have, your best foot forward, because quality is huge. Here's a couple examples. On the left, we have an iPhone shot. On the right, we have a DSLR. Same thing here, iPhone versus DSLR. The thing is, we've all heard the 10,000 rule that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. Like, put your 10,000 hours in to get to that level of quality. These ideas are too important to just dial it in. You got to have really, really high-end work to make this all happen. These days, you have no excuse. We now have, Kelby One, Skillshare, Creative Live, Flearn, all kinds of ways to learn photography, Portrait Masters. I mean, there's no shortage of ways to learn these days. So get out there and learn your photography, learn whatever aspect it is you need to learn, get on it. Also in this step, think about the external versus the internal. That means like not only the way it looks, but what does it mean? Like we all love Banksy's work because it looks cool, but he also has a lot of meaning behind his work. And that's how it's become so universally loved, is that it's both external and internal work. Of course, branding is huge on step 6. You got to make it look good, whether it's fonts, the interface, the design. I used to be a graphic designer, and that is a huge part of the deal, is making your projects look good. So don't believe the lie that quality is what makes you. It's all about the whole package. Quality, the internal, the external, the branding, the whole deal, the presentation. So of course, on step 7, once we've done all this, it is time to ship it, to launch it out into the world. So I say that if you take care of steps 1 through 6, step 7 really does take care of itself. What I mean is that, let's rewind for a minute. So if you have a good concept that's relatable, if you're passionate about it, in step 2, if in step 3 you have a vision, step 4, you verified it's a great idea, step 5, you've done it, the production is amazing, step 6, it looks and sounds and feels amazing. By step 7, like just put it out there, because it will blow up. I've seen it time and time again. If projects hit all these steps, it will take off, mark my words. If it doesn't, you've done something wrong in one of these steps. Again, I've had projects featured on all of these platforms, and it's because I followed these steps we've been going through. Jeremy, you have a platform to launch personal projects from. I say, well, that's how I built my platform, by launching personal projects. Literally, that's how, in the early days of social media, I scaled my Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, whatever. It's just by doing personal projects. So launch methods, obviously social media, but there's email lists, which are far, far too underrated. Everybody still checks their email. It's a very crucial thing to still utilize email lists these days. There's industry outlets you can rely on, industry peers, publicists, project participants, your friends and community. I've literally made use of this entire list over the course of my career. Hashtags. I personally used to dismiss hashtags. Then one time I had a lady fly from California to Tennessee to do a 15-minute portrait shoot with me, and then she bought $20,000 worth of my art on the spot because she liked it so much. Then she bought like 50 of my books to give to all her friends. And I finally asked her, I was like, you're an amazing client. Like, I'm blown away that you're spending all this money. I said, how did you find me? And she said, well, I just like to browse hashtags on Instagram. And she found me through some random dumb hashtag that I use. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm forever using hashtags. Crazy story. Be consistent and stay committed. That's a huge part of step 7. If you've ever seen Humans of New York, probably the biggest and best thing they've done is that they just keep going, keep telling stories, keep putting the work out there over and over and over. Be consistent. That's what I'm the worst at. I'm not consistent with our projects. I jump from project to project, but for a project to really blow up and take off, you have to be committed, be consistent. So let's talk about the 7 steps in reverse. If it's irrelevant in step 1, if your concept, if your topic is irrelevant, no one will care. If it's half-hearted in step 2, if there's no passion there, you'll flame out and you just won't do it. I've been there. I've bailed on so many of my projects. In step 3, if the vision isn't there, if it's more of the same, it'll just blend in and not be seen by anybody. If it's dumb in step 4, if it's a bad idea, you'll be embarrassed. If it's broken in step 5, which is the production, it simply won't work. You know that. If it's mediocre in step 6, it'll get dismissed. And if it's unknown in step 7, if you do a bad job launching it, it was all a waste. In fact, I did a project in Africa where we nailed steps 1 through 6. Beautiful project. One of the things I'm the most proud of that I've ever done in my life. But guess what? It failed because we did a terrible job launching it. Just an awful, awful job launching it. So I've been there, done that, failed over and over again. I love this quote. The more you execute, this is called the loop. The more you execute, the more you fail. The more you fail, the less you care. The less you care, the more you execute. So it'll just keep you going. And I've found that to be true. I don't care these days if something works or it doesn't. I just keep going and I keep executing. So you are the maker, you are the artist, you are the photographer. Goods, these projects that I'm talking about, they are the path. The purpose is the destination to where you're headed. And when I say destination, I mean making money as a photographer, building a career, building a legacy. You do that by doing these projects. If you follow these steps that I've been talking about, you will be seen and noticed and build a following, all that good stuff. But you have to do these projects. You have to stay committed, be consistent, and chasing those ideas like your life depends on it. And so I'm actually done way early. I guess I flew through that. And so guys, I would love if y'all have any questions for me. Samsung and B&H, if y'all want to chat about anything, but this kind of is the presentation as I have it.
All right. Well, we haven't gotten any questions yet, but that said, guys out there listening in, if you have any questions, now is the time to chime in with anything you want to know. Otherwise, I'll do the raffle and we'll wrap it up.
Awesome. Sounds great.
All right. Derek, Scott, I don't know if you guys are in the background there. If you guys have any questions or whatnot that you want to ask as well.
Definitely. Jeremy, how much time do you commit to personal projects, or does it depend on how busy you are? Is there times where you just disconnect from photography in general and you recharge your batteries?
Man, I chase the muse wherever the muse leads me. There's no planning. It's truly like when the ideas come, I try to be their partner and get the thing done. And so, yeah, I have a lot of them, and I try to chase the ones that seem to follow this little outline I've set out here, and I go for it.
Awesome. And do you find that focusing on one, if you get multiple ideas, will you work simultaneously? Will you still just go with that vibe? Like if you're really heavy on one and you might have put one on the back burner, or do you try to keep it just to an isolated project?
Yeah, it's always, I mean, like right now, I'm working on probably 5 projects. Some I'm more excited about than others, but it just all depends on kind of the gosh, a lot of things, budget and timing and passion. And so yeah, it just always depends.
Here you are. It's like a lot of people can't even think of one project. Jeremy's got like 5 over there. I know you got a ton of ideas. Are you constantly keeping things like, are you one of those people that writes down every idea that pops into your head or any inspiration? Do you track all that?
I do, 'cause I feel like ideas at first are very, very fuzzy and kind of like they're like a seed, and you got to let them all like grow into what they need to be, and then gauge it from there, whether it's worth pursuing it. So, yes, I do write every single one down.
How long, Jeremy, do you usually let those ideas stew, or do you think about them before you say, okay, I've thought about this enough and it's now something I should pursue? Like, when do you know?
Yeah, well, let's take Block Queens for example. So, in December, I went to Art Basel in Miami, and I didn't know why. I didn't. I paid, wasn't speaking, so I just bought tickets, bought my flight, and went down there. Didn't know anybody, didn't have any meetings, just went. Just felt like I needed to go. I get down there, and this kid keeps hitting me up on Instagram, and he's like, "Hey man, let's chat NFTs." And I was like, "No." I was like, "I already tried NFTs. I'm over it. I didn't have any success. I don't want to do NFTs." But he was like really persistent and kept like, "No man, let's do it. Let's get together." So finally I did, and he told me about this thing called generative art, which is like partnering with code to make art. And it's not AI, because the code isn't making anything for you. It's just helping scramble together different combinations of the art to look at. And so anyway, once he told me about that, this was December 4th. I was like, oh man, I've got an idea for a project called Block Queens. And I immediately started like really learning the NFT industry. Jumped right in. Spent probably, gosh, 7 weeks around the clock, immersive learning, and then building also. But it's starting to build Block Queens. Launched Block Queens on February 22nd, and it made over $600,000 in 2 seconds. Literally 2 seconds, which was more money than I've ever made on a project, and so that was like life changing. And so that was one of those ideas where I had to jump immediately into, because I just knew it was the one. But then I have like another, big NFT project that I want to do so bad right now. In fact, I need to do it in New York and LA, but it's just much more like set 5 for that idea is massive. The production of it is huge. And so I would have to figure out a lot in terms of timing and budget and how to get to both New York and LA to pull that one off. And so it just depends on like the idea. With Black Queen, I was able to just sit right here in my studio and build it and crank it out. So it really does come back to these 7 steps and how I'm able to break it all down.
We had a question come in from Ryan Sims Photography on Facebook asking, what's one of your favorite personal projects and a favorite professional project?
Personal project, probably that one I was just talking about. I did in Africa, where I collaborated with former child soldiers in Africa to make art together. That was favorite personal. Favorite professional. Gosh, good question. Probably a shoot I did with Imogen Heap. She's a musician. We did a really rad project in Iceland that visually was just one of my favorite photo shoots I've ever done.
Now, do you find, Jeremy, I know we're talking personal projects, but just to kind of dip on that professional side for a minute, do you find what's the balance generally when you're working with an artist that's kind of set in their ways and their style, might have a creative direction they want to go? How much are you then contributing from your side of things? You're going to be ultimately the master of the visual, right? And you have all of that in your background. You have the expertise. How much are you contributing to that vision?
Yeah, every single project is different. Sometimes people really don't have a clue and they're relying on me entirely to pull it off. And other times I feel like I'm just there to push a button and they don't want my insight whatsoever. But usually it's somewhere in between to where I'm taking their ideas and bringing in my own, and it is a true, 50-50 type thing.
What do you prefer? Do you like do you like the creative control? Does that keep you kind of like engaged in a certain
Um,
project?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I'm an artist at heart. And when I say artist, like I just like working alone and making art. That's why I love NFTs so much, because I just get to do my own thing. I feel like I thrive the most when I'm just doing what I want to do. So that's probably the preference for sure.
Definitely. Pete, you heard Jeremy say it before. It's like we could talk all day about NFTs, and it's like it's got me curious over here about
Yeah.
it's such a hot topic of where is it going. Of course, the flame was burning bright, and then everybody kind of gets jumps on the bandwagon. They want to get in on it, and it's this new direction. Then everybody realizes like, wait, I don't know as much about it as I
So
should. Where do you see it going, Jeremy?
Great question. I have a lot of thoughts here. I definitely think it's the future. I mean, there's no doubt that this is where, we're all headed. When you see Spotify and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter especially, all like incorporating NFTs into where they're headed. I mean, I feel like we're like in the late 90s when the internet was first starting. I mean, that's why we call it Web 3, because it really is like a brand new internet. But it is very, very clunky right now and hard to understand. The learning curve is just ridiculous. Like, I feel like I've had to go to law school just to like be in the industry. And too many artists are getting frustrated because what they're doing is they're just like putting their art on a platform, whether it be OpenSea or Foundation or Super Rare, and they're like not getting any sales, and then they quit, and then they go give NFTs a bad name. What they're missing out on is that you have to immerse yourself into the industry. It doesn't matter how many followers you have on social media. Web 3 is starting over. You really do have to get into the industry and humbly and network and get to know people and be on Discord and Twitter and Telegram. And if your work is good, oddly, this presentation I just gave is a perfect story or framework to also follow for NFTs. In fact, step 7 would be the biggest, because launching, I would go hard into community there. This industry just doesn't work if you're not immersed in the community. But the market is dead right now. It is a bear market. Sales are down, projects are down, crypto is down, the stock market is down. So it's a hard moment right now. But despite all that, I do believe that it's inevitable that we are all headed towards this for sure.
So it sounds like this is another topic that we should have you back to speak about at some point.
I've got a lot of thoughts for sure. I'm still very much a beginner. I mean, this industry is changing by the day. There is no expert in this industry.
Right.
It's moving so much faster than other industries. And it's all a guessing game. I mean, we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. Yeah, thank y'all for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It was great having you on, Jeremy. It's fantastic work. We love your outlook on photography, and it is, as one of our viewers had already said, you're inspiring to listen to and hear about your process. And So we want to thank you again. It looks like Rand got the information, and I'm going to double down on what Pete said. I would love to circle back around and get an NFT conversation, because I think it might be one of those things that like you said, it's rough around the edges right now. It's not polished. People are still, it's something completely new. And for a lot of people who don't dive in, it's like I tried to dive into it, and then I realized, like, wait, I don't know anything about crypto, and it kind of goes hand in hand. So it's like you have to immerse yourself in the crypto world as well. So Pete, I'm going to co-sign that I think that would be a super interesting conversation to have, because it might be one of those things that 15 years from now we have Jeremy back on, and he's like, I told you, and I'm over here like clutching my pennies because I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. But I think it'd be such a cool topic to dive into.
I think so too. Jeremy, you and I will talk. I'll send you an email, and if you feel comfortable and there's enough to talk about there, let's do something.
Of course, probably a thing like this would be best not in a presentation, but more of a Q&A where we're just shooting the breeze and chatting about it. That would be awesome.
Yep. All right. Well, I got the email address for Rand, so we're all good there. So thanks everyone. Thanks Jeremy for being here. And guys, please keep an eye on the B&H event space for future events with us.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you guys.
See ya.